And now, ladies and gentlemen, comes probably your favorite part of the tutorial: texturing and shading. Now is the all important part in which we assign particular textures to our model. And as I told you guys, for the past 3 years or so, I've only been using Mental Ray because of the outstanding results that it produces. So we're going to change our rendering option to rendering, render, and then scroll down and assign renderer. Change it from default skyline to Mental Ray. Okay. So Mental Ray's 3D Max is high-end rendering tool. And then we're going to go to rendering, open up the material editor. The first material we are going to work on is the one for the leg color. Why is it the first one? Well, because this is the material which is going to change the look of the overall structure. In other words, this is the material which is going to control the styling of our robot. So we need to be very careful as to which color we can give it. Okay? First things first, we're going to change it from a standard object or from a standard material. Clicking on the standard button there. We're going to change it to a Mental Ray shader. Okay? Now, very important, for the surface, we're going to click on the None button. And then we're going to load a nice shader which is reflective enough, like almost like real life. And that happens to be the car paint shader. So click on it. Now I'm going to double click on mine to make it bigger for you guys to see what is going on. Okay, so you simply double click and then it's going to pop up like that. Okay, now very important, this is the part where you as an artist, you decide which texture do you want to be there on the overall. So you might like it to be a reddish texture, it's fine. Okay, but I think I like mine to be let's see, dark green, like that. Okay, of course, as you notice in the shader, the main surface is green, but the shiny areas are red. Why? Because under the light facing color, it's still red. So what do? You simply drag whichever color you had first there, simply drag it to this slot and then make a copy, so that in that way, can you see now the surface is evenly lit in the proper shader. I know we have ladies watching. I'm saying that because I know we got ladies watching. Okay. So I know ladies, you might not always like these strong colors, because women tend to like the softer colors. So for instance, I rendered mine here in the purple color. So this is something that can really interest you ladies. Okay, and of course you can see the one in green, of course. For our Henrythejedi.com ladies out there who are watching right now, if you don't like this green color, well, simply you change the base color to anything that you like. Let's say purple, like that. And then of course you have to drag the base color to the light facing color like that to make a copy. Okay, and then we scroll down because you'll notice there are too many flaky areas on the material. That's because the material is simply behaving just like a real car texture. Okay, as I told you, Mental Ray is really powerful, especially if you are new to it. Okay, so we need to reduce this flakiness to nothing. So we scroll down after the diffuse color, we come here to the flakes, and then we're going to reduce the flake weight to 0, so that now, as you can see, of course, our surface now is nice and smooth. Okay, and then let's go up, and then we are going to come here, under the Mental Ray shader. We come here to the environment settings, click on the None button, and then simply add an environment map like that. By doing simply that, as you can see, 3D Max now darkens our material to give it even a more beautiful look. Okay, so let's go up. Now remember, as I told you guys, this texture here is the main one controlling all the textures of the robot. In fact, let's rename it from leg color to style shader, so that we know this is the guy which supplies the main textures to all our objects. Okay, and then let's go to the leg texture. Now I'm going to show you how to drag and drop this material here that we've created, remember, because it needs to be used everywhere else. Okay, you can see whichever texture is blue must become this texture here. that we've just created. So what do? Let's come here to the material of the leg, and then we are simply going to drag the style shader, drag it with the mouse to this slot number 2 here, and of course make sure it's an instance and click OK. That way, throughout the scene, as we are changing things, we can always go back to the main one here and change it, and then it's going to change accordingly throughout the scene. You'll notice now, if we now go to the head shader, simply drag the style shader to the first slot there where it's blue, make an instance, of course. You can see for yourselves, of course, how it updates in the scene. And it seems our leg shader didn't apply to any of our objects, so I'm going to do the following. Select edge faces, click on any legs, then we go to group, open, and then select the leg shader, that one, and then we're going to click on the pick by option, and then select from the name there, and then we're going to pick, of course, our leg. Then click on pick. You can see, of course, just which textures are actually contained within the leg itself. Select the leg again, and then we go to group, close. Okay, and of course now we're going to drag our style shader to this section here. Of course it needs to be an instance. Just like that. Now of course our entire scene has been updated. Okay, let's move on. Now up next, let's see. Yeah, we're going to select our carbon fiber texture. Again, can you see it's one of the main ones? So you can see which texture it's containing there. So click on the carbon fiber texture. Of course, we're going to change it from a standard material to a mental ray shader. For the surface, we're going to load a car paint shader. Now, for the base color, let me actually maximize it. For the base color, this actually needs to come from a texture that we have. So we're going to click on the base color button, and then of course we're going to load a bitmap. And from the bitmap, we are going to load our carbon fiber texture from our resource files. Okay. You can see how it updates now. Now, if we are to apply this texture right now, you'll notice it's a bit too flat, so we need to intensify the color. So let me show you how to do a little color correction within 3D Max of the materials. While we are still in the map itself, simply scroll down until you see the output option. Click on it. Now, of course, this is where we can control just how intensified our texture actually is. So we're going to start by increasing the output amount to something higher. Let's see, just to make it darker. Can you see, of course, now how it updates, it becomes darker? And also the RGB offset will help. So let's just increase it a bit. You can see how it's brightening itself up there. Okay. So yeah, by doing that, we've done a good job of making our material strike out a bit more instead of just being flat. So let's go to the parent. Now, since it's a carbon fiber texture, we need to darken this. So we're simply going to drag the black color here to the base color, make it black like that. And of course, also this also needs to be a completely black texture like that, so that now, of course, you can see how black it is. Let's go up to the parent, and of course we go to the environment, click on the none button, and then simply add an environment map. Can you see, of course, how it nicely applies a dark texture around it? And maybe for this carbon fiber we can change the color to a dark blue texture. Of course, you can see how it updates in the scene like that. It has a nice dark blue shade around it, almost like a halo effect. Okay, so that's for the carbon fiber. Of course, now that means we go to every slot which uses the carbon fiber texture. For instance, the one of the legs, you can see it has a carbon fiber texture there. You can simply drag it there. Of course, it must be an instance of it. Let's see which other one. You can see the hydraulic system also seems to use it. Let's see. I'm going to press edge faces. I think we actually need to select one of these hydraulic systems. Group, open. We need to pick a material from the hydraulic system itself, so pick from the hydraulic system. Oh, sorry. Yeah, you can see. It has already nicely taken the texture, of course, of the carbon fiber. Okay. In fact, we might want to rename it to hydraulic system. Okay, so that it gets back its proper name. Then we can close the group again, of course. Let's see now what else needs to be adjusted. This first material slot here. Let's click on it. The one for the legs. Actually, let's rename this to leg material. Okay. Now this first slot here needs to be a nice shiny shader. It's going to be applied around here. Okay. So yeah. So we click on it. The material number 2. Just call it let's see, silver or metal. Actually, it's a metallic texture. Metal. Click on the standard button. Of course, we want to make it a mental ray shader, and the surface we want to make it a carpen shader. Okay, just maximize it. And now, very important, it would be nice if the legs really shine on along this sections here. Okay, so we're going to change the base color to simply, of course, a white texture, and of course the light facing color to yet, of course, a white texture. As easy as that. Of course, we must reduce the flake weight to 0 so that it's nice and smooth. Let's go to the parent, and then under the environment, of course, we're going to load an environment map. And I really like that nice glowing halo effect to it, so I'm simply choosing mine to be a dark blue texture like that. Let's go back to the carbon fiber texture. In the carpen shader, I think we also need to reduce the flake weight to 0. Okay, let's do the same also for this one, of course, for the hydraulic system texture. For the surface, flake weight back to 0, like that. Okay. Okay. Let's go up to the parent. Let's see which one needs to be worked on next. Okay, we have the machine gun texture there. Now for the machine gun, that should be a nice dark brown texture. So we're going to click on the standard button, of course, make it a mental ray shader, change the surface to a carpen shader, of course. As you can see, we are simply reusing the power of the carpen shader. Of course, we're going to change it from red to a nice dark brown shader. And of course, drag the base color to the light facing color to make a copy, and of course reduce the flake weight to 0. Let's go back to the parent and add our environment map. Okay. Looking good so far. So this one is for the head, as we saw earlier. Now, of course, this red texture here is supposed to be the one for the stripe that runs along, as you can see. So in other words, what I'm saying is that the red texture is this red stripe running along there. So you can change it from a red texture by clicking on it. Let's rename it to, of course, stripe. I think it should be called main, because the main stripe. Change it from standard to a mental ray shader. Change the surface, of course, to a carpen shader. And of course, it can be as red as you like. Okay. And remember, of course, to reduce the flake weight to 0. Really, these colors are up to you. Okay. So you are the artist. You can decide which color you want for your stripes and so forth. Maybe I just want a blue one. Okay. And of course, remember always to add an environment map. Okay. And then also there is this texture here which is waiting to be lit up. We're going to copy, select this blue texture here, the stripe main, right click and then copy it. And then we're going to right click here and paste the copy in this option here. In fact, let's do the following. Yeah, you see it has updated now. Let's call it stripe 2. Okay. Now this is the stripe that's going to run along this section here. So click on the carpen shader. Of course, you can simply change its color. I think a nice dark almost orange color is fine. Of course, drag to make a copy like that. Okay, let's go up. So you can see, of course, how the materials are slowly but surely identifying themselves in the scene. Now, up next, the main event, which is, of course, the eyes. So let's go to the eye holder textures. Starting with the first one, click on the eye holder primary texture. Click on the standard button, and of course, we need to load a mental ray texture for it. Click on the surface, and of course, a color paint shader once more. Now, of course, this is the color of this object here that's going to hold the light. You can choose any color as you please, and I think for me, I'm going for, let's see, this kind of color here, sort of a greenish color. Make a copy, and of course, sorry, as usual, adding an environment map. Okay. Back to the parent, and then up next is the eye primary texture. Now we are going to come back to this one later. Let's first sort these things out. For the zoom finder, again, this is really up to you guys. In fact, I think its texture right now is actually alright. And the red rubber, even that, I don't think I'm even going to change mine. Maybe we just want to give it, maybe, no, not self-illumination, maybe some glossiness. Okay, like that. That should do. Or the zoom finder happens to be these brownish layers here. Just click on it. Change the standard to a mental red texture. In fact, you can have the same. No. Let's just do this. Make it a mental ray. Color paint. A brighter brown. Yeah, that should do. Okay. Okay. And then, let's see, of course, let's see. Now, for this one, I'm not going to load an environment map. It's fine like that, okay? Now, for the eye primary, of course, that actually happens to be the primary texture of the eye. So this way you open up, we are now going to open up our primary photo editing package. It can be Photoshop, it can be Inkscape, or any program that you are most comfortable with. But I can assure you, you can be able to achieve this result with most software, most photo editing software. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is a part where I really went all out on the internet, and I kept looking for as many reference images as possible of beautiful camera with beautiful lenses. As you can see, there's quite a variety that you can find on the internet. Just do a Google search for camera lenses, and of course this happened to be my favorite one. It's a Carl Zeiss lens. My goodness, things just don't get better than this, eh? Look at that, eh? All kinds of cameras. Oh yeah, and the lenses. So here's the first step. Basically, first you do a Google search of a camera lens until you find the one you're looking for, and then here is the next step. This is what I did. You select any of the pictures and then you open them with your favorite editing tool. In other words, I'm going to open mine now with Photoshop. So now the image opens up. Okay, now I'm going to select the area which I want to work on. So we're going to use the cropping tool and simply crop it to the area that you want, because we are not interested in any other part of the camera except its front. So crop to that section. Make sure, of course, you include all the areas that you want to include, and then press enter. As I said, you can use any other photo editing tool that can help you. It can be Inkscape, which is a free program. Okay, you can find Inkscape on the internet, or of course you can use Photoshop, Adobe Photoshop. Okay, so yeah, once we've cropped, now we are going to zoom in much closer, and then we are going to select the selection tool. So select the selection tool, but we want an elliptical marquee tool like that one. And then hold shift, and then we're going to drag to make the shape, of course, of a circle. Okay, by holding shift we are capable of determining an exact circle and not an ellipse, because if I try to drag right now without pressing shift, you can see what a wrong shape we have, of course. But of course, by holding shift and then dragging outwards, you can see how we can select our area. And then we're going to right click, select transform selection. Our aim now is to focus on the lens itself. So as you can see, we are moving our selection tool and use the keyboard arrows to really focus on the area. Again, use shift to scale the selection area up a bit. Okay. Once we are really happy with the selection, simply press enter. Okay. Once you've done that, now we go to edit, copy, and then we go to file, new. Of course, it must be now a blank image, and the background preferably must be transparent, and then click OK. And then here, of course, we go to edit, paste. Just like that, of course. Now we've gotten back our lens. Now, to make sure that when we map our object, things don't go wrong, well, we are simply going to create a new layer, and then we are going to select the painting tool. By the way, I just forgot, this could be the first tutorial ever at henrythejedi.com where we actually use Photoshop. Just to let you know. So we're going to paint this layer here black, and then move it, drag it below layer number 1, so that now, of course, only the lens is visible in the foreground. And now, of course, we must save our file. So we go to File, Save As. Yeah, you can save it as whatever you like, preferably a Photoshop format, because if it's a Photoshop format, it will keep quite a high resolution image. Now, let me do what I just did now with a different lens, so that you guys can, of course, remember forever what to do. Let's see, which lens might you want to use? Yeah, I like this one, the Olympus. Right click, open with Photoshop. I'm using Photoshop again. Again, we crop to whichever area we want to work on. Yeah, this is really our first tutorial at henrythejedi.com using Photoshop. So crop to that area, select the selection tool, elliptical marquee tool, and then again shift and drag to create a selection area. And of course, we want to position it so that it really selects well. Transform selection, just to adjust it a bit more. Again, always holding shift. If you don't hold shift, trust me, you'll end up with an ellipse and not a circle. Okay, and then position it with the keyboard arrows, of course. Press enter, and of course edit, copy, file, new. Make the background transparent. Okay, and of course edit, paste. Sorry, create a new layer there. Paint it totally black and drag it below. And yeah, just like that, of course, now you can save again. So you go to File, Save As, give it whatever name you want, and of course make sure it's a Photoshop format. Okay, the wise thing to do is to do like what I've done here. What I did was I kept copying each of those lenses from the pictures that I found on the internet, and then I made a collection of them. As you can see, after making a collection of mine, I managed to stack them into a collection really of irises of photo images. As you can see, there are quite a lot of them. You can see all kinds of editions that I had cropped. Of course, this makes life easier so that I can simply reuse them. So I can simply reuse them in whichever way that I feel like using them. Okay, all these are different lenses that I managed to get off the internet. So yeah, go ahead and do that, so that now, after you've done that, after you've chosen your lens, now we come to the material editor, and then under here, the eye primary color, click on it, and then click on the diffuse option, and then we're going to load, of course, a bitmap. Sorry, actually we don't do that. We are going to change the eye primary, to a mental ray shader first. Okay, sorry, my bad. Change the surface to a carpen shader again. Let's just extend it. Now this needs to be a white texture. Okay, and also drag it of course there, and of course reduce the flake weight to 0. And then click on the diffuse button, sorry, on the base color, click on the button there. We are going to load a bitmap, and of course let's open up all the images. We are going to load our images, and of course, as I told you, I really love this lens. Just look at the structure. I don't know how many layers it has got, but I like that inner opening there. And by the way, I'm also going to show you through this tutorial how to create this transition involving this kind of structure. But this is quite simply the most advanced lens I've ever seen in a camera, from Carl Zeiss, of course. So open up that shader. You can see, of course, how it updates in the viewport. Again, as you can see, it's too flat, so we need to darken it and intensify it. So let's scroll down until we see the output channel, and of course we can simply reduce the RGB offset and increase the output amount, you know, adjusting these two parameters, of course, to get the ultimate look and feel for the eye. Okay. So yeah, that should do it for the eye. And of course we must be able to view it in the viewport, so simply go to the eye, click on the checker box there. Just like that, of course you can view it in the viewport. And of course, if you want to rotate the eye, you can simply come here to the angle. For the W angle, simply enter 90 there, and just like that, of course, it's going to rotate the angle at 90 degrees for the eye shader. Okay. So that's for the primary eye holder, and you can see, of course, how we've adjusted all its parameters. Now, before we move on to the next eye holder, I think we are going to copy the texture of the zoom finder. So simply copy it. Let's come here to the second eye holder. Yeah, right click, and then of course we are going to paste an instance of the zoom finder here, so that we don't need to duplicate things, of course. And also, of course, the red rubber, copy it. Let's come here, and of course I'm going to paste an instance of the red rubber there as well. And let's see. Yeah, now we can go to it, to this eye holder 01. Click on the primary shader. Yeah, click on the primary shader. Change it from standard, of course, to mental ray. Surface must be a carpen shader. Oh yeah. Again, let's see. In fact, we can actually copy from here, and then we simply go to the parent here, and then right click, and then paste a copy of it here. Okay. Now this doesn't have to be green, of course, so it could be another texture. Let's see. Nothing too fancy. Yeah, perhaps such a shader can help. Okay, drag to make a copy, of course. Remember, these colors are up to you guys. Okay. Of course, now let's work on the texture for the secondary high. Change the standard color to a mental ray shader. By the way, let's just go back to the primary one here. I think we forgot to add an environment map to the eye primary. Yes, we forgot, so simply add an environment shader there, of course, to darken our texture. Now we can, let's see, we can go back to this one now. Surface, we're going to load a carpen shader. Base color should be white for the eye. Drag to make a copy there. And of course, flake weight must be 0. And the base color, of course, we're going to load our bitmap, and we're going to choose whichever shaders we want for the secondary eye. With such a variety, it really becomes quite difficult to choose, eh? But I think I'm going for this one here. Yeah, it really looks cool. Yeah, this one. As you can see, when it's a Photoshop layer, it will always ask you to choose which layer. Of course, you can always choose collapse layers. Of course, display in the viewport. Aha, our secondary layer has an eye now. Of course, we need to intensify this eye. I'm going to change mine here to a box perhaps. Yeah, like that. So you simply drag there, hold the mouse, and then you can of course select the eyes, the box, so that we can properly see the mapping. Click on the output, and of course we're going to adjust the parameters. Remember, our idea with the color correction is simply to intensify the look and feel of our textures, okay, because they look too flat on their own. Yeah, I think that should do. Let's go to the parent. Sorry, we forgot to add, of course, an environment map. Like that. Maybe for the color for this one, yeah, I'm going to choose a blue for this one's color. And also this guy here, the color of the environment should be different. Perhaps also another blue. Yeah, because it's the eye, you see, so just trying to be fancy there. Yeah, so we have the zoom finder, textures, and everything else really. I just rename this one here to the tube that contains the eye. Okay. And also this one. Yeah, it's the eye holder. Okay. So let's just copy this name here. Come here. Yeah, let's rename this guy here to eye holder secondary. Because it contains, of course, the textures of the secondary eye holder. Now you can change this from a box to a sphere like that. Now just one more thing, just open up the material editor again. For the machine gun, I think this texture is a bit too brownish, so let's go to it. Click on it so that you can bring up its materials. Let's just darken it by entering for the red 36, for the green 28, and for the blue shader let's enter 25. Okay, so that way it's a proper darkened texture. And of course you drag this to that to make a copy. Okay, and also click on the carbon fiber shader. Just click on it, click on the map. I think we just need to darken it a bit, so go to the output channel and simply reduce the RGB offset to a negative value, as you can see, just to make it, of course, much darker than what it is right now. Okay, because carbon fiber textures actually are dark. One day you should do yourself a favor and go and see a carbon fiber car in real life, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Of course, those cars are so rare. Can you see the one that I have? This is my design that I've been following the tutorial as well. So you can see the kind of texturing that we've done. I really like this area here. It really looks like the helmet of a motorcycle racer or something, or a bicycle racer, you know. As I told you guys, remember this color here, this purple here, is the main shader for the styling. So if ever I wanted to change it, well, it's simple. As I showed you guys, all you do is you simply go to the style shader, okay, and then you click on the surface, click on the base color, and then let's say you wanted it to be, let's say you wanted it to be green, as I had imagined earlier, dark green like that. And then you simply drag, of course, this copy to that to make a copy of it. Okay, and as we speak, let me go to rendering environment. I'm going to change my background color here to something completely white. Now, of course, go to rendering, render. Now let's see, what do you have now? Aha, can you see? Just like that, by manipulating one material slot, everything updates to the proper material just the way we like it. Okay, this is what I really call proper design, you know, and proper workflow that I really wanted you guys to see by following this tutorial on Mokonzi, the robot. Look at its eyes, eh? It's just mean machine. And of course, if for some reason you wanted it to be, let's see, what does it look like if it's red hot? Let's see. Let's see, this should really look interesting. Whoa, can you see that? Of course, again, by simply changing the texture, we can update easily our object. Okay? So guys, thank you so much for your patience, for watching this part of the Mokonzi, the robot tutorial, concentrating mainly on the texturing and shading. This is quite an interesting robot, I must say. Quite an interesting design, quite interesting texturing, and I'm glad Henrythejedi.com has delivered once again. Sure, this is just a mean machine, eh? I can't wait to send it to war, for real action. So that it can use those machine guns. Look at its eyes, eh? Oh, yeah. So, yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching this particular part of the Mokonzi the robot tutorial. Remember, I told you to download this tutorial for free. Simply go to our website and you can register to our forum, okay, for free. And of course, you can get access to this amazing tutorial and plenty more of them, okay. Now, before I close, something important I need to mention to you guys. Now, Henrythejedi.com website fan base is growing quite a lot. It's all thanks to your visits. It's all thanks to you. And of course, no wonder I went through the trouble of adding the translation option so that you guys can easily translate any of our web pages into the language that suits you the most. Because I know not all of us speak English. Some people are born speaking, Chinese or Swahili or Spanish for that matter, So just trying to reach out more people as possible. Spreading the word, of course, of creativity. Now, we have a very, very big fan base all the way in Uganda, okay? And this was started by someone who actually visited Henrythejedi.com 1 year ago in 2009, and his name is Henrythejedi, all the way from Uganda. There he is at his production house. It was until he came across our website Henrythejedi.com that he got inspired to start something, and of course he now started what is called the Proline Promotions Film Academy. Yep, as the name says, it's an academy that teaches young people how to do film and motion graphics in Uganda. Remember, Uganda is in Africa, okay? Quite a vibrant continent, as you can see. So, yeah, these are some of the pictures that shows his studio setups and so forth. Okay, and of course there he is himself, handling the camera himself. Oh yeah. So these are the kinds of brilliant news that I like to post on our website. And Mr. Henrythejedi added something about me on his website. Okay, do you recognize what that guy looks like? Of course, that's Henrythejedi himself. Yeah. Okay, that's Mr. Henry's admission manager. Okay. So Proline Studios is really helping bring things or move things forward all the way in Uganda. So guys, if you live in Uganda and you don't know, you want to get ahead in your film production works, please join this academy. So Mr. Henrythejedi, thank you so much. From Henrythejedi and all the Henrythejedi.com community, we would like to thank you for this great effort that you went to remember to have us on your web. Because honestly, there is nothing that I value more in people than loyalty. Loyalty means if you did something for someone, they remember what you did for them, whether it takes them 10 years or a century. But they should just have that heart to remember the good things that were done to them, okay? Because we're a community, the world is such a small community, and of course, we are all helping each other. So thank you, Mr. Henrythejedi, all the way from Proline Promotions Film Academy in Uganda. Keep watching Henrythejedi.com, of course, for more creative stuffs coming your way. Before I actually say goodbye, if you're also one of our fans, you can be anywhere in the world. Please send me an email to let me know how Henrythejedi.com is helping you in your production. Of course, you can always go to Henrythejedi.com in the Contact Us page. You can send me an email there for me to reply to you, okay, so that I can, of course, show the rest of our community how you know, things are moving forward and how much our community is growing bigger through the creative skills of the After Effects and 3D Max. My name is Henry Mbata, also known as the Jedi. Thank you so much for watching this particular tutorial on Mokonzi the machine. Until next time, henrythejedi.com, you will believe.